YTPC. I am back again. 2 videos in the same day, huh? This one is also going to be a VR to Fistful of Briar. Before we get into that, enjoying my second pipe of the day. In it, I am smoking 2024 Cornell and Diehl San Sepulcro. And I opted to smoke that today to celebrate the fact that the 2025 version, my shirt's all messed up here. The 2025 version of San Sepulcro is coming out this evening. I'm a big fan of Cornell and Diehl overall, and San Sepulcro is probably one of my favorites from them. So I'm enjoying the 2024 version and anticipating the 2025 version coming out this evening. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe the 2025 is the exact same as the 2024, which is fine by me because I enjoyed it very much. And the pipe I am smoking is a commissioned pipe that I had Chad over at Griffin Pipes make for me a little while back. Chad is a great dude and does awesome work. But like I said, this is a VR to Fistful of Briar. I can't remember if I have already covered this or not. I am far too lazy to go back through all of my videos and watch them to see if I did or not. But this is a VR about how I got into pipe smoking. They asked the question in their first video that they produced, if I'm not mistaken. And so I figured, why not make a VR and talk about it if I haven't already. So I never knew either one of my biological grandparents on my mother's side or my father's side. But I did know my great-grandmother and my great-grandfather on my mom's side. And growing up, I never seen my great-grandfather without a pipe or a cigar in his hand. He was always smoking one of the two anytime I seen him. And I have vivid memories of walking into my grandparents' home and the smell of pipe tobacco or cigars was always permeating the inside of the home. And I always looked forward to going there and just smelling that aroma because it smelled wonderful to me. And my great-grandfather himself, he was always a hug my neck kind of guy. If I tried to hug his waist or give him a normal hug, he never wanted that. He'd always come up to me, boy, give me a hug around my neck, hug my neck. And so anytime I would hug his neck, he always smelled like a combination of pipe tobacco or cigar smoke and aftershave. And even now, as I think back to it, I can recall that smell, and I smell it. It's very vivid in my scent memory, that combination of tobacco smoke and aftershave. And I remember going into the local tobacconist with my great-grandfather, to buy pipe tobacco and cigars. And I have vivid memories also of going into that same tobacconist with my mother and father when I was a child to buy him pipe tobacco and cigars for Christmas. And as amazing as it is, that tobacconist is still around, is still local to me, and it's one that I am at on a weekly basis. At almost 40 years old myself, I am still able to frequent the tobacconist that my great-grandfather visited, and one which I visited with him while I was a child. So that place is very important to me. But I digress. My great-grandfather passed away when I was maybe 10 or 11 years old. And so the presence of pipes and cigars in my life left with him. I got into cigarettes and dip, chewing tobacco, when I was probably about 13 or 14 years old. I smoked cigarettes until I was about 21, and those were only like a nicotine delivery system, as was dip and chewing tobacco. But I continued chewing tobacco up until, very presently. Within the last few months have I only tried to give that up. But about 2013, as I mentioned in my previous video, is the time that my ex-wife had left. And one of my best friends at the time, his stepfather, passed away right around the same time that my wife left. So he and I were spending a great deal of time with one another. And I was at his house one night, we were hanging out, and he brought out a box of cigars. And he mentioned to me that his stepfather had left him this box of cigars in his will. And he asked me if I would smoke a cigar with him in his stepfather's memory. I told him that I'd never smoked a cigar before, but I was willing to with him, because in memory of his stepfather. So we smoked the cigar together that night, had a little bit of Jack Daniels to go with it. And that cigar was an Avo Uvezian Classic No. 2. I still remember it to this day, and will often revisit that cigar just for nostalgia. It's not in my regular rotation anymore, but something I still enjoy just for nostalgic purposes. But anyway, we smoked that cigar, and I instantly fell in love. I would say it was probably the very next day or the day after that I went to another local cigar shop, and I purchased a handful of cigars in a small humidor, and thus my cigar journey began. I became a regular cigar smoker, smoking probably every day at that point, if not maybe 2-3 times a week, very, very quickly. Within a few months, I began working at a separate local cigar shop than the one that my grandfather and I went to as a child, but one that's a little bit closer to my house. The guy that owned the place needed some help, and so I started working there. And my pipe will not stay lit for some reason. I don't think I let the tobacco dry out enough. So let's set this aside. But anyway, I started working at that local cigar shop, and I stayed at that shop for about 5 years, maybe a little over 5 years. But while I was working at that cigar shop, I was primarily only a cigar smoker. And if you know anything about cigar companies, they have regional reps that work for the company. And those reps will go into the local cigar shops, that is assigned to them. And basically it's just a check-in, make sure sales are going well, tell you about new cigars that are coming out, seeing if you need to restock on the brand they represent, etc. Well, one of the reps that we had was actually a broker, which means he represented numerous different cigar companies. And he also represented pipes, pipe tobacco, and accessories like lighters and cutters and humidors, etc. He's the man that we went through to get a lot of those things. And one of the companies that he represented was Fourth Generation. And this particular day that our rep came in, he had with him Eric Stockabue with Fourth Generation. And just to, just to insert this very quickly, I was able to meet Eric for the second time just a few weeks ago at a Fourth Generation pipe show that they had not too far from me. And I asked him how to properly pronounce his last name, because everybody says Stockabee or Stockaby, etc. And he informed me that the proper way is Stockabue. And I'm probably butchering that as well, but he did say Stockabue. So if that sounds weird, I'm only saying it in an attempt to say it properly per his instruction. So anyway, this was probably 2014, 2015 is when the rep and Eric from Fourth Generation stopped in. And I was smoking a cigar, Eric was smoking a pipe, and we got on the discussion about pipes. And I had informed the rep and Eric that I was primarily a cigar smoker. I've never really tried pipes, and I told them the story about my great-grandfather and his love for pipes and cigars. And he asked me, Eric did, if I was interested in pipes at all. And I told him I was. However, I was hesitant to spend the money to buy a pipe, to buy a tamper, to buy tobacco and all this other stuff, and end up not liking it. Well, Eric said, I'll be right back. And him and the rep went out to the parking lot and came back about 5 minutes later. And Eric handed me a box about so big. And he says, this is for you. And the box that he handed me was a pipe smoker's starter kit. It had a Fourth Generation pipe, a tin of Fourth Generation tobacco. I can't remember which tobacco it was at this point, but it had the pipe, tobacco. It had like a Bic style pipe lighter that had like an adjustable insert where you can have the flame vertical or horizontal, and a check tool in it. And if I'm not mistaken, it had a few pipe cleaners in there as well. But it was a pipe smoker starter kit. And Eric Stockabue had gifted this to me and said, well, here, this is for you. See if this will help you on your pipe smoking journey. So Eric Stockabue from Fourth Generation gifted me my very first tin of tobacco and my very first pipe, which is an incredible story to me to say that, Eric from Fourth Generation is the man who got me started on my pipe smoking journey outside of my great grandfather, who first helped me develop that love for tobacco in general. Unfortunately, I do not still have that pipe. I wish I did. For the life of me now, I cannot remember what happened to that pipe, where it's at, where it might be. I kick myself in the butt not owning that pipe anymore. It would be a treasured piece in my collection for sure if I were to still own it. But nonetheless, I still have the story. I still have the memory. I still have that connection. And it's very important to me. I'm very proud to say that my very first love for tobacco began with my great-grandfather. And my journey into pipe smoking was started by Eric Stockabue, by his generous gift to me. And to this day, 10 years later, still enjoying, and I love every minute of it. So that's my story about how I got into pipe smoking. I appreciate you guys watching this. I appreciate you sticking around to the end of this video. Thank you very much. It's much appreciated. Truly it is. I hope you have a wonderful day and the rest of your week, and God bless.